Alrighty, so we're going to be building a level 2 math video today. And so I'm going to start, as usual, by clearing off any of the text boxes on my slide. And I'm going to start by formatting it so the slides look a little nicer for this lesson. So under the Format tab, we're going to edit our master slide. And we'll come down to the blank slide and make it look a little bit nicer. Let's change the color, so let's select this color wheel. And for today, I'm going to pick a dark green, how about? So we'll have a background of dark green. And then let's add a shape. Let's add in a rectangle. And so we'll drag that up to the corner to where it looks about even. And then extend that through most of the slide. Get it nice and centered. And for this, we're going to turn off the fill. So we're going to switch it from color fill to no fill because we only want a border. So we will turn on a line border and let's make this a white border. So we have this nice green and white outline on our slides. Perfect. So now let's go and get that slide. So we'll add a blank one and we can get to work. In today's lesson, we'll be teaching about fractions. And we'll be looking to help students understand what is 1/4 of 20. And now, black text looks a little dark against this green, so I'm going to modify this a little bit. I'm going to change the font, make it bold, make it bigger, and I'm going to turn the text white. Just like that. Alrighty. Now another thing I might want to do is replace this word 1/4 with the actual fraction. And so let's go ahead and build that right now. So I will add a text box for a 1 and a text box for a 4. Let me zoom in here. And then I'm just going to add a line between those to make the fraction. Alrighty. Now let's format this. So I'm going to give both of these a bold. I'm going to switch their font. I'm going to make them white. And then I'll modify the line. So I'll make it a little bit thicker. Maybe instead of 2 points, we'll do 5 points. And instead of black, we'll also make it white. And that looks pretty good, although I probably want to make these a little bit bigger too. So I'm going to bring them from 48. Maybe let's try 70. How does that look? That looks pretty good. So let's then space it out. Maybe I'll go and make this slide a little thicker now, maybe at 8. Get it all centered. Perfect. I'm just going to make it look a little bit tighter together. All right. So now I'm going to group all of this so that I can move this fraction around all as one piece. And I want to put it right where these words are. So I'm going to get rid of the 1/4. And then I'm going to add in some spaces. So I have enough space to add my fraction. And then I can just kind of slide it in. Perfect. And so let's move it around. Maybe we could get rid of a couple of those spaces. Adjust everything. Nice. And now we'll want to recenter this, so we'll highlight everything and drag it back into the center of our page. Perfect. So the way I'm going to be teaching this problem is through a tape diagram or a bar model. And so to draw that, I'm going to add a shape. We'll make a rectangle, and we will draw out that bar model. So let's make it look just like that. Now for this bar model, I'm going to, again, get rid of the fill. So I'll switch it from color fill to no fill and turn on a border. I'm going to make this a thick, easy to see border, so maybe 10 points. And again, I'll color it white for now. And the next thing I want to do is label that this entire model is going to represent the number 20. And so I'm going to do that by drawing a little swirly arrow that I can label this whole bar as 20. And so to do that, I'm going to come to Shape, and I'm going to select this little pen tool. Now I'm going to start at the top left corner, move to the top right corner, and then click again to end that line. And now I can drag, there's this little dot in the middle that I could use to customize things. So I'll drag that up. And then I'm going to actually right click and make this a sharper point. But I can still make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to grab again in the middle, and let's curve it a little bit, and then curve it up near the end. That looks pretty nice. And then we'll do that to the other side. So we will come to this side, we'll curve it right there, and curve it up near the ends. Perfect. So now I'll format this, so let's highlight that shape. We're going to adjust it, let's make it the same thickness, so 10 points. And so that this stands out from the bar model, instead of white, let's make this a dark yellowish. So I have this yellow saved. And there I've got this nice little label for my bar diagram. And let's go ahead and label that this entire model represents 20. So we'll put in a text box of 20. And let's go ahead and format that. We'll make it size 75. We'll make this, we'll do yellow for this one as well. And let's bold it, sure. How's that look? Excellent. So now we want to show that we're taking this bar model and splitting it into fourths. And so I'm going to come up to the Shape tab and grab hold of this line. And we're going to split this model up into fourths. And so I'm going to drag this till it's lined up right in the center. And let's use this same yellow. So I'll change the color and make it yellow. And then we'll up the thickness again to 10 points. All right, so now I've cut it in 2 pieces, but we need to cut this model into 4. So let's drag some more of these. And you might notice it's kind of hard to tell exactly if all the pieces are evenly distributed. And so I'll show you a trick to make sure that you have broken this into exactly 4 pieces. So what I'm going to do is take one of these lines and copy it and put it directly lined up with the right edge of my model. And then do the same thing to the left edge of my model, right there. And now I'm going to highlight all of those lines in between so they're all highlighted. I will right-click, come to Distribute Objects, and this means I'm going to share them or distribute them equally over this space horizontally. And so I click that, and you could see some of those shifted a little bit, and now they're perfectly spaced out. Now I only needed these ones on the end to orient how much space I wanted them to distribute between. So I'll get rid of those. And now you can see I've broken this into perfect fourths. So the next thing we could do, maybe we'll go ahead and label each of these pieces as 1/4. So I'll come up to that fraction and I'll just copy that because I already have it saved. And at this point, maybe I decide I need to make this bar a little bit thicker. So let's extend it down a little bit. And then let's stretch out these lines. And now we could get that centered. Perfect. So let's write 1/4 into each of these pieces so that students understand this is each piece of the model is 1/4. And now we want to show that we're going to be looking at just one of these pieces. So let's fill this piece with a different color. To do that, we'll add a shape, and the shape we're filling is a rectangle. And so we're going to bring this rectangle and line it up and extend it. It's okay if it overlaps things a little bit because we're going to send that backwards so that it's covered up by anything if it overlaps. Now I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make this look, let's see if maybe a light blue. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. So we'll use this light blue, and then we're going to arrange this, and let's send it backwards so that we can see everything else on top of it. There we go. And so now we could check. We see there's like a little bit of a space left over here, so let's adjust that, make sure it's all filled in, and that looks pretty good. So now we want students to identify what the value of this one piece is, and we want them to think, well, we're taking the number 20 and splitting it into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So let's point at this blue piece. So we'll draw an arrow, and let's, just like that. Let's actually curve this arrow so it looks a little bit nicer. First, I'll go ahead and make it a bit thicker though. So let's make it 10 points. We'll make the arrow the same yellow we've been using. And then I'm going to come and right-click and select to make this editable. And that's going to let me adjust things. You'll notice it gives me that little circle in the middle that I can drag to bend my arrow. So I'm going to drag those ends and just get it so it's pointing nicely how I want it. Great. And so now we want students to think this piece could be calculated by taking the number 20 and dividing it by 4. And so to show the division symbol, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a text box, and then I'll actually show you a trick, which is that I come to Google and search this word obelisk, which I don't know why, but it gives you this division symbol that you can copy and paste. So I'm going to copy that and paste that into my text box. And we'll do 20 divided by, we're splitting that bar into 4 pieces. That's going to be equal to 5. So let's change these. Equal to 5. Great. And let's go ahead. Let's make the 5 a little bit easier to see. So instead of the yellow, we'll switch that 5 back to being white. And let's make it a little bit bigger maybe. And we want to circle this as our final answer. So let's go ahead and add a shape. Let's circle it with this nice rounded rectangle. So we'll kind of drag that so it looks like it's mostly lined up. And then we'll turn off the fill, add a border. Let's make it a 5-point white border and get it all centered. So we'll drag that around, resize it so it looks like we're circling our answer. Perfect. So now we've finished building our slide. Before we do anything else, it can be helpful to proofread it, make sure everything looks really clean. And so one thing, maybe you decide you want these little yellow lines not showing up on top of the white, but behind it. And so we'll click on this little yellow piece, and we'll arrange that and send it to the back. Now you can see it cuts off really nicely right where that model begins. Maybe we'll do that same thing with these yellow lines. So we'll be careful to select those. And let's send them backwards. Oh, but that starts to make this blue look a little weird, so we'll send that one backwards. Just get it layered properly so that our picture looks nice and refined. And now that we've built our slide, let's get to work animating. So the first thing in this problem is we'll write out the problem. And we want to make sure that what is 1/4 of 20 all appears together. So let's take all of this and group it together. And let's add an animation. We will build in, maybe we'll do a fade and move. How does that work? That looks pretty good. Sure. Let's make it happen a little bit faster. Great. And now after that, the next thing I would do as a teacher is probably draw out this rectangle. So I'll select the rectangle, add the animation, and let's draw it out using the line draw animation. So we'll draw it out, and we'll do it faster so it only takes half a second. Great. So now we've written our problem, we've drawn this model. Now we need to label that the entire model is 20. So the next thing I'll do is draw this yellow line to label it. I'll draw that line. And again, let's speed it up half a second. And now I'll label that it's 20. So we'll build in the 20. I'll use a scale effect in 0.3 with a bounce. So let's just check right here that this is looking okay. So we have our problem. We draw our model. We label the model. It's 20. Cool. Now the next thing we'll probably do is split this model into 4 pieces. So we'll split it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces by drawing these lines. And so let's build those in. We're going to draw in those lines. Again, we'll speed it up so it takes only half a second. And the thing is, we want all of these lines, or maybe you do, to be drawn at the same moment. So I'm going to come to build order. And I can see right here I have these 3 lines that I'm drawing into the model. And I'm going to select both of these and make them happen with the previous build. So now all 3 of these lines are going to appear at the exact same moment. And so we could take a look at what that looks like. So our problem, we draw our model, we label it, and then we cut it into pieces. Great. Next thing we'll do is we will label each of these pieces as 1/4. And so let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to add this effect. Let's make these fractions, let's have them scale in. And so we'll do the scale in 0.3 with a bounce. And maybe we want these to kind of all appear at the same moment, but slightly offset from each other. So I'll do that. I'll come to build order, and I can see here's the 4 fractions that I'm writing in. And first I notice they're happening in a kind of weird order. The first one is this one right here, but after that it's the last one, and then in the second one, and then the third. So it's kind of a strange order. And so I'm going to reorder these so that it goes first, second, third, fourth, kind of left to right throughout the bar model. Now I'm going to connect all of these by taking these 3 and making them happen with the first one. So now those are all connected. And to make it look a little off-centered or offset, I'm going to add a small delay. Maybe let's do 0.1 second delay. And so let's take a look at what that looks like. So we'll draw in our problem, our model, we'll label it as 20, we'll cut the model into pieces, and then show that each piece is 1/4. That looks pretty good. So now the next piece, we want to draw in this blue rectangle to shade that we're looking at just one of these fourths. So let's add an effect. Let's do the iris where we're kind of fill it in like that. Great. And again, we'll speed this up. Perfect. And then the last thing in this problem will be drawing this arrow, pointing at it, and writing out our problem before circling the answer. So let's draw in our arrow. We'll use a line draw. Speed it up. Let's make this one go 0.5. And then we're going to make our problem appear. So I'm going to highlight all of these together. And I'm going to make them appear with a scale in 0.3 with a bounce. And now I'm going to make sure that 20 divided by 4 equals 5 appears in the right order. So I'm going to check my build order. And you can see it starts with an equal, then divide, then 425. It's kind of messed up right now. So let's drag this into the right order. 20 divided by 4 equals 5. Perfect. And last but not least, we're going to circle our correct answer. So I'm going to grab this circle, build it in, and let's use a fun effect. What does flashbulbs look like? Well, that's kind of exciting. So we could do that just so students see we have the correct answer. We'll make it take a little bit less time, maybe 3/4 of a second. And now let's take a look at this problem. So what is 1/4 of 20? Well, I'm going to start by drawing a model, and this whole model represents all 20. Now we're looking for 1/4, so I'll break this model into 4 pieces so that each piece is 1/4 of the total. Now in the problem, I want to know how much 1/4 is. Well, one piece will be like taking the entire bar, which is 20, and dividing it into 4 pieces. That means each piece, or this piece, will have a value of 5. And so 1/4 of 20 is 5. Amazing. So that problem looks great. It's all ready to go. And now we can just copy it to make problem number 2. So we'll take this slide, copy it, and maybe in this one, we'll change the numbers. So instead of 1/4 of 20, we'll do 1. And to edit this, because it's all grouped together, I'll click, double click, and just make sure I've got all the way to where this 4, let's make it 1/3 of 30. How about? Well, now this is simple enough. I need to change the 20 into a 30. I need to make it so it's split into thirds, not fourths. So let's drag these lines, and we'll want them to be in thirds. Again, that's pretty hard to eyeball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these yellow bars at each end, and then I can now come and highlight all of them and distribute them horizontally so that it's split evenly. And there you can see that's going to guarantee that I get proper thirds. Now, of course, I need to change these fractions, so let's get rid of this last one and make the others thirds. Put these in their correct place. And let's extend this blue piece just to there. Perfect. Now here we have to take not 20, but 30. We're not dividing by 4. Now we're dividing by 3. And our answer is no longer 5. Now it's 10. And let's adjust that circle. There we go. Just like that, we can check that this problem works. What's 1/3 of 30? Well, if we draw a model that all represents 30, then each piece will be 1/3. Therefore, one of those pieces is equal to 30 divided by 3, which equals 10. So there's a couple things I didn't like. This label and these lines drew at the same moment, so that was kind of weird. And this arrow is a little bit offset. It should be pointing more in the center. And so we can go and fix some of that too. So let's take all of this and make sure we get that centered in the right place. And again, these lines seem to draw on their own. They happen too quickly. So let's build order. And you can see right here that by accident, when we copied and edited things, the 30 and those two lines have connected with each other. And so we'll just change it so that this line doesn't happen with the 30, but it happens when we click. And so we could proofread one more time. 1/3 of 30, draw our bar. The whole thing's 30. If we split it in 3, each piece is now 1/3. When we look at one of these pieces, that will be equal to 30 split or divided into 3, meaning each piece has a value of 10. So 1/3 of 30 is 10. There we go. We could copy this slide, keep it going, and repeat this for as many problems as we wanted. Once we finish building, we'll just record this as a video and then export that movie so we can give it and assign it to our students.